Hello, hello. Happy Sunday. It's good to be back. Sorry I missed last week. Work has just been insane lately. My we've had I work for university. We do a lot of curriculum development and stuff like that. And we've had recently one of our key people left, and then we had some grad students that were the last several years who've been working with us on this project and working on stuff, and they all graduated last spring and are gone. And so basically the team keeps shrinking, and I'm mostly the only person left other than my boss. And so a lot of the work has fallen on me to get everything that we usually have to get done by mid-August done. And so I've been working crazy overtime lately. So last Sunday I just couldn't take a break to stream. So Suliko, what's up, man? It's good to see you. Thank you for showing up. All right, so let's get some painting done. I have not done too much painting lately. It'll take stock a little bit of where we're at. So what I did manage to get done the last couple, maybe the last 10 days or so, took a little time. I worked on the thrones for the king and the queen models for the dwarves. It's kind of fun doing the wood texture on these. These chairs are really, really nicely detailed. They've got the cool like Celtic knot type pattern in them. And yeah, so these were fun. I still got to do the metal caps that are at the top, but those are for the king and the queen model. So I've got the queen. I did her hair the other day. After I did the hair, I realized I think I need a little bit more depth on the face. I got to touch up her chin. I got some brown hair on her chin, but she needs a little bit more depth of color in some of the shadows. So I got to do some glazing on her, touch her up. The king model, I haven't really known what to do with. I've been bouncing around different ideas. I base coated everything on his cloth. I was thinking about doing tartan similar to the queen, but now I'm thinking I might want to make it look a little different. Excuse me. Maybe a little bit of like maybe black and green instead of white and green, so he doesn't look too different from her, but still a little bit more muted. My original idea was to do very saturated, like super deep crimson or purple, something that would really make him feel royal, but I think he would stand out too much against all the other dwarves that I've painted. So I'm going to do him a little bit more muted, and like I said, maybe black and green on that. But I'm still thinking. Those two models still need some work. What else have we got? Working on the farmer. I did a textured like cloak on him. It's like a corduroy type texture on him. He's got the sunspots and a little bit more of the tanned skin color. Been working on the little girl. She was holding the saber-toothed tiger cub. Got her hair painted and her cloak done as well. So she's coming along. She's been really, really fun. Again, I don't know what I'm doing with this model yet, because I think she was either a limited edition model for the Kickstarter or something, but they're not selling her anymore. So she's not part of my actual commission with Atlantis. So one of two things is either, well, maybe even more options than this, but a couple options. Three things I'm thinking about right now. One is to just give it to Dan at Atlantis Miniatures, let him do a contest, something just to like give away one of his customers, because I'm painting all these dwarves, so maybe do some kind of thing to help drive sales for him. So I don't know, might do that, or I might hold on to her, take her to PAX Unplugged with me, have her be one of a couple models. Maybe I'll bring along and give away to people who recognize me and come up and say some passcode that I give on Twitter, something like that. That's another option. The third option is to just do a giveaway for my followers. I did hit 1,500 on Twitter. I don't know how many of those are real accounts, but it's a flattering number anyway. When I used to have a Twitter account under just my own name, I had like 500 people follow me, and I became Gorilla with a Brush, and in like less than 2 years, I think I got up to like almost 3 times that. So that's been very flattering and cool. So I might do that. Who knows? Haven't fully decided. Been working on the Piper. Had a really good time with her plaid. I tried to do this is a very, very common tartan pattern, like in the real world. Had fun doing it on her. Need to do a little bit of glazing, a little shading on the tartan, give it some more pronounced shadows, but she's been fun. I did her hair the other day. She might do a little bit of extra glazing on her face too. What else we got? This guy, I'm struggling with a little bit. Mostly because the next thing I sort of want to do is the banner. But I don't really know what to do with this banner because it doesn't have a lot of flat surfaces to do like cool banner designs like I normally would do. So I might just do it more like I would do normal cloth texture. So maybe just choose some kind of geometric design and just repeat it all throughout the cloth, and then do the glazing and stuff like I normally do. That's probably what will end up happening. I thought about I could do a tartan pattern on the banner, but maybe the banner looks a little, more designed, more fancy. So anyway, don't know what I'm doing yet with him. Let's see what else. I think I got 2 more to show off here where we're working on. The Gladiator model. This guy is very tough looking dwarf. Did some tattoos on him. Did more of a blue theme with his tartan and shield is kind of blue and orange. I'm thinking about giving him a little bit more of a orangish hair, so kind of tie that in with the shield that I did. What I love about this guy is his weapon. It's a chain, like a ball and chain, but the ball at the end is a fist. So it's pretty awesome. So he's been fun to paint so far. And this last is the girl who is riding on the tiger. So the tiger rider. Tiger is mostly done. I'm still trying to figure out if I want to do any kind of stuff on the mane, like maybe some black tips on the mane or something like that. But I'm going to wait till she's done and make sure that it doesn't detract from the rider too much. But she was fun, did a lot of tattoos on her as well. So I'm just going to kind of be painting today. Nothing in mind. I actually am not even sure where I'm going to start today. Some ideas are painting her hair, painting this guy's hair maybe. Could start working on some leather colors for some of these guys. So probably just jump in and start doing some things. I really wish I wrote down the recipes I used for the first batch of dwarves I sent. I was really bad and I didn't write them down, and now I really wish I had the recipe for doing the hair on the guy, the Brewmaster model, because I would really love to duplicate that hair on this guy. Painting a Union model from Guild Ball. Got inspired by your Harry the Hat, especially the pinstripe pants. The end result is looking more like a Yankees baseball player. Send me some pictures on Facebook or Twitter or something, and maybe I can give you some tips. The thing with the Harry the Hat was the pinstripes. You got to keep them really thin, and you don't want them too light, because pinstripe dress pants, the pinstripe is actually pretty subtle. You can see the striping, but it's not like black on white. If you have like charcoal gray pants, the pinstriping is going to also be sort of a mid-tone gray rather than white. So you got to watch a little of the color there. And you got to keep the pinstripes very, very thin, otherwise they start looking like stripes. So let's pick a color and get started on this guy. What would be a good base color for orangish red hair? I really wish I remember what I used. Probably orange leather might be a good option. Start there. We'll see. It's only paint, you know? If you paint it, it looks terrible, you just paint over it. Did you get all recovered from your vacation, Jesse? I'm going to start with this orange leather. I don't know. Ordered a big package of, I guess big is a relative term. I ordered 100 Gorilla with a Brush stickers the other day. So that'd be fun to do some sticker exchanges with people who have the stickers, or send them out to some of you faithful viewers. I think I'm supposed to get those a week from tomorrow. A local guy here named Mike, who does a podcast called What's New with Mike and Jeff. Well, it starts off as a Facebook Live video, and then they I don't know if they do a full podcast on it, but then they'll archive it to YouTube and things like that. But they host it at one of the local game stores here in the Phoenix area. And mostly it's about new releases and talking about upcoming events. He's been really cool, very supportive of the things that I do. And he was tweeting out the link to the place he uses for his stickers. And if you used his link, you got $10 off your first order. So that was kind of my kick in the butt to finally order some stickers. I'll bring some to PAX Unplugged with me. If anybody sees me, recognizes me, I'll have some stickers with me. By the way, speaking of Atlantis Miniatures, with being the models I'm painting here, they just finished a Kickstarter recently here for a new line of models that are ogres. They are pretty amazing, fantastic takes on fantasy ogres. Should definitely check them out. Consider pre-ordering some if you like. I might be getting down on my hands and knees and begging Dan to have me paint at least a couple of those for him, because they are really amazing models. Well, got a lot of dwarves to finish at the moment. Maybe I'll finish the dwarves just in time for the ogre models to start hitting. There's also a mythology range that they recently kickstarted and will be coming out before too long. I pre-ordered some of those. Like a Cyclops, which is about, I think it's about the size of the Etten model I painted before. So it'll be fun to paint some werewolves, and I don't remember all that I ordered. I'm pretty sure I got werewolves, minotaurs, a hippogriff maybe, or a griffin, and the Cyclops. So it's worth mentioning a little bit as I'm filling in the base coat on this guy's hair that I had planned all along to have him be a little bit like have a, kind of an orangish hair color. And so when I was doing his choosing the color for the plaid, for instance, I went with a more blue. The blue and the orange are complementary colors, so they look really good together. They complement each other. I also, when I was doing the skin, when you've seen me before where, you know, I paint up all the underneath textures and then I glaze over to get the different tones that I want and start doing the shadows. A lot of times I use pink flesh as the first of the glazing layers to start bringing in some of that natural like pinkish flesh tone. And then I'll start adding in some Indian shadow. Whichever one of those colors is red. I think it's Indian shadow. Start adding some of that, so keep it redder, but it's kind of a coolish red. It's like a purplish red, and so then it starts adding a little bit of cool tones down into the shadows. And I do that. That'll give you know, the more reddish tone to the skin like she has. But I didn't do that for this guy. Instead, I was using like more brownish and brownish orangish kind of colors to do the glazing. So I mixed some of things like orange leather and that into the flesh tones to do the glazing for him. Because again, I knew that this hair was going to be orange-ish and orangish brown. That the other colors I was going to use were blue. He's got the orange on the shield. So I wanted the skin tone to sort of match what those other colors were going to be, as opposed to it being the pinkish tone, which is not going to look quite right with this hair color. And, well, not that it wouldn't, I shouldn't say it wouldn't look right. It would still look okay, but I didn't really want to convey that kind of color skin with this other color scheme. For how it would look if you went a little bit more red, you can look at the Brewmaster model that I did for the dwarves, because he has sort of a similar, he's got blue clothing, he's got like orangish hair, but then he's got more of the red skin. But the reason I went that route with him is because I wanted him to look a little happy and flushed and drunk, give him a little bit of like a rosy cheek look, But this guy, that is not the look I'm going for with him. I want him to have a little more tanned flesh look, like he's been out in the sun, working on his weapon craft, like his martial arts skills, fighting in the arena or whatever. You know, typically dwarves are shown to be like living underground and stuff, but I kind of get this feeling from a lot of these models, like maybe in this world that these dwarves don't necessarily live totally underground. Maybe that's where they have some of their fortresses, but maybe they have some farmland that are outside of their holds, or maybe some of these dwarves live in human settlements. I just get that vibe from some of the villager models that are included in the set. So where do we go from here? Let's see. Well, we've got Kalahari orange, which would start to bring that up a little bit. We could actually start pushing it a little towards the fantasy orange. That's really orange. I'm going to do Mars orange next, but I'm actually going to add just a touch of the base coat into it to just mute it down just a touch. painting table is usually quite messy with piles of paint tubes everywhere. Oh, sorry about that. It is exceptionally messy even for my standards at the moment. I just have not had a lot of time to clean or think or do anything else but work lately. I moved my camera down a little bit for this stream, working on these dwarves. They're smaller miniatures, so that you can see the detail that I'm painting a little bit better, but makes things a little cramped under the camera and cramped with the paintbrush. Usually for this first layer pass on all this hair, I don't worry too much about starting to pick out like the equivalent of the individual strands, you know, to kind of give it that hair texture. I mostly am now just distinguishing the hair color from the shadow color, which is that base coat I laid down. Start to give the hair some depth. So while I'm doing this, since there's nothing else going on, let me advertise some things. So most of you know, if you've been following my stream or my Facebook or Twitter or any of that stuff, that I do a lot of stuff for charity with my hobby. So I donate a chunk of the money I get for painting miniatures to animal charities. We did the dice bag sale where we sold about 15, I think it was 15 dice bags. We ended up raising over $500 for Arizona Pet Project and the Arizona Animal Welfare League. But there's also another way that you can help me help these great charities, get some cool stuff. So I have a Cafe Press store, so Cafe Press / Gorilla with a Brush. You can get really cool gear there. I bought a mug that has my logo on it. It's really, it's like my favorite coffee mug now. Quality level is really nice. The print is really crisp on it. Bought some t-shirts with my logo on it. Anyway, so all of the profits I get from anybody ordering those shirts, I donate 100% of those profits to the Arizona Animal Welfare League, the Arizona Pet Project, or the Diane Fossey Gorilla International Fund. So those are the three charities I usually support. So if you want to get some cool gear, help out a good cause, go check that out. Still have some of those Celtic busts left, and a portion of the sales of those models also goes to charity. The painted versions of those busts are available for sale. You can contact me if you're interested. Got the ones that have the face paint on them, and then the ones without the face paint. So all of those are available for sale. 25% of that money goes to charity. Hey, Heath, you made it. And Doofus Dad, welcome. We are painting some dwarfs up today. Well, I'm glad you're here, Heath. Thanks for stopping by. So I don't know what the exact count of the busts are. I only have about, I think 14 of each copy left in my possession. However, I don't know how many sold at Gen Con. My friend who took those, he took 50 of each copy. He expected to sell quite a few of them there. He's not back in town yet, or maybe he is, but he's just recovering from Gen Con. I don't know. Haven't heard back from him yet to go over and settle up with him, but so I don't know what the total sale numbers from Gen Con were. So we'll see when I get those back from him. But I'm hoping he sold most of those. Yeah, those busts are limited edition, so we only made 90 of each for sale. And once they're gone forever. So each one has a numbered certificate. If you purchase those painted ones that I have, those painted ones are numbers 1 and 2 out of 90. So you get very special ones if you purchase the painted ones. They might go pretty quick in a few months here when things calm down for me. I've been talking to some of the local game stores. We got about 3 or 4 game stores well, there's even more than that, but 3 or 4 game stores here in the valley that have a pretty big painting and war game contingency there. There's tons of stores that have popped up recently around Magic and role-playing. But they don't do so much of the tabletop wargaming. Anyway, I've talked to them about doing painting clinics there in their stores. And if I did painting clinics with some advanced painting techniques, probably what I would do is charge people like a materials fee, and then each one would have a bust, and we would go through doing a class like hands-on about doing the busts in different skin tones and stuff like that. And so if I start doing those, like I plan to, starting around November, December, my guess is that 2 or 3 of those painting classes are going to sell all the rest of the busts. So again, if you're interested, don't wait too long. Those busts will eventually disappear. Cool, Heath. It's good to see you, man. Have a good night. All right, next up, I don't want to go too bright orange. Ember orange is a little more on track. So this is the P3 Ember Orange. And like before, I'm going to mute it just a little bit by adding some of the previous color. Do you not have any game stores near you? We've got a ton. I mean, the metropolitan region is really huge, so that's kind of why it supports a lot of that stuff. But the absolute best game store, and I've been to some all across the country, but the best one I've ever been to is the one, Imperial Outpost, where Mike and Jeff, those guys I mentioned earlier, they do their podcast out of. It's absolutely huge. The guy who owns it, they've been in business for something like 20, 25 years, somewhere around there. And he's developed this crazy loyal following over time. And so that place is always hopping. He's essentially, over time, taken over 3 consecutive stores in a strip mall area. And so he's got the first one you go into that has the main entrance door. That's like the retail end of stuff. So has just tons and tons of board games and tabletop war games and RPG books and just filled to the brim with a cool variety of things. Very well stocked, very clean. The middle store, so you walk through there, he's got like an opening through the 3 sections. So then the middle section is where, there's a little bit of play space in that, but not much. That second room is like all play space, just tables and tables and tables full of place to play. And then he has a wall of demo games, so tons of board games that you can just just borrow one off the wall basically and just play and try it out. See if you like it before you buy it, or maybe you just want to hang out with friends and try something new. And then that has a bunch of snacks and stuff in that room too you can buy. And then the third room is a hobby room. So if people come to hang out and paint, there's painting tables in there. He's got lots of specialized hobby materials there for sale, like pigments and airbrush supplies, plasticard, all that stuff. So it's just absolutely huge. It's well stocked. The people who work there are friendly. It's just a good place. Problem for me is that place is really far away from me, relatively speaking. On a weekend without traffic, it would take me probably an hour at least to drive there. During the week, it's probably closer to a 2-hour drive with traffic because of the freeways and stuff you'd have to go on to. So it is really hard for me to get out to that store. There used to be a pretty decent game store near me. Well, again, there's nothing super close to me that's like that, but it was like half an hour away. It was really focused on war games like 40K and War Machine, Malifaux, all that kind of stuff. Had tons of play space, was always well stocked, but they closed a couple years ago. They were open for a good 10 years, I think. There's a really old game store. So again, it's about maybe 30-40 minutes from me. But I've never really felt that welcome going into that one. It's probably the oldest game store in the valley. But for whatever reason, it's kind of cliquish. Like the owners have their regulars and they kind of cater to those regulars. And if you're not a regular, you don't necessarily feel super welcome there. It's kind of a weird dynamic, but. And then there's like 4 game stores really close to me, but all they really sell are Magic and role-playing stuff. Most of them don't even carry paints. There is one that's about half an hour from me that is fairly new. I think they just celebrated their 1st or 2nd year anniversary. I think 1 year, a couple months ago. So they're building up. They're getting established. Yeah, I think Magic is probably their big cash cow, but it looks like they're starting to develop a pretty good community of X-Wing players and Age of Sigmar players and things like that. So hopefully they continue to grow and become the East Valley. I live on the east side. The Imperial Outpost is over on the west side. Hopefully they can become eventually the east side version of Imperial Outpost and really have a lot more of the stuff that I would be going in for. One of the cool things they do, so that's Athoria Games, is they've actually really embraced the cosplay culture. So they carry a lot of things like Warbla and things that cosplayers would use for building their costumes. And they do clinics on how to do, like, you know, Warbla armor and things like that. So they've tried to cater to that community. Now, at this point, I think I want to start going over to almost like a flesh color to do the next highlights, because I don't want to go, like, you can start going more like bright orange, but I've kept a little bit more of a neutral, realistic palette with these dwarves, and so I don't want to go too like fantasy Slayer orange hair. I'll try this next. Is Augusta where is the University of Georgia located at? That's Athens, that's right. I knew it was an A name. Got a friend who lives there. He works for the University of Georgia. He's tried to convince me to apply for jobs there. You've got Augusta University. did manage to, on Friday night, we drove to the North Phoenix area, to the IMAX theater that's there, and saw a 9:30 showing of the newest Mission Impossible movie. It was fun to get out of the house and go do that. It was quite enjoyable. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. Might be good to brush up on the previous movie, what was it, Rogue Nation? This is the first of the Mission Impossibles that's actually more of a sequel, as opposed to kind of a standalone. It builds off of that movie, so if it's been a while since you've seen that movie, you might want to check it out first. It was originally Augusta College, then Augusta State University, then Georgia Regents University. Wow, it must have changed names pretty rapidly for you to have been like 2 names ago. Yeah, ASU, where I work, has been ASU for quite some time, Arizona State University. But it was originally Tempe Normal School. And then I'm pretty sure it was Arizona State College. And eventually Arizona State University. But that goes back a ways. A rich guy came in and decided he owned the place and had the name changed. That's usually how that stuff works. He got voted out about 3 years ago, so now it's Augusta University. Crazy. And we had a president for ASU, I don't know how long he's been president, 10 to 15 years, somewhere in that range. He came in and decided that he wanted us to be the biggest university in the country. And so just embarked on this incredible expansion project, both in terms of like the buildings on campus and the recruiting and all sorts of stuff. And mostly he's been successful. But not without some growing pains. There's definitely been some issues. Alright, let's do some final highlighting. I think this might be the ticket. I slipped on my elbow funny last night. It's like very painful. Kind of funny, my buddy who I go rock climbing with has been out of town for the last week plus. We haven't been rock climbing, but I somehow managed to mess up my elbow last night. I tweaked my shoulder the other night. I'm in worse shape now after the week rest than I have been after rock climbing for the last 3 years. So this final layer is definitely where I want to start making sure that I'm picking out more texture. The individual bundles of hair. I don't know how well it's picking up. I can't really. You can kind of see it there. Yep. I am getting really close to 40. This year will be my 39th birthday. And it is, my body is definitely different than it was when it was young. There's some comedian telling jokes about what happens as you get older, and one of the things he was saying was about how, like, he was talking about a guy, or maybe, telling the story about him, but I don't know if it was true, but, walking around with a sling, his arm's in a sling, and like if you're 20 years old, everybody assumes that you were on like a skateboarding accident or, doing something crazy cool. And if you're 40, like you were just, like he was blow drying his hair and threw his shoulder out, and that's why he was in the sling. I really need to get back to the eye doctor. It's been a few years since I've had my eyes checked and prescription changed. And I know I'll need new glasses, but the last time I went in a few years ago, I'd been having a little thing where sometimes during painting, just every so often, my eyes would just go really wonky on me. Like, I'd be focused on, and then I try to look away, and my eyes just like go cross-eyed for a second, or that kind of stuff. Or like the vice versa, I try to focus on the model and it just like takes a little bit to focus, and I was like, I don't know if it's just a prescription change I need or what's going on with my eyes. And his response was basically, well, you're getting older. You should expect it to continue and probably get worse as time goes on. It's like, oh, that's a comforting feeling. Your eyes will shake. Yeah, I've tried. I have this light that's here has a magnifying light, or like a magnifying glass on it. I don't know, it screws up my depth perception so bad when I try to use it that so far I have not been able to make it work for me. I'm just going to keep going as best I can until nature forces me to adapt. All in all, I feel pretty lucky. There's other people my age who will try to look at my models and they'll talk about how they can't see detail and can't focus that tight up, which makes me feel quite happy that that hasn't happened to me yet, that I'm not totally dependent on that I can still paint just with my just normal glasses. But the day is coming. This has been a joyful, cheery stream, huh? Everybody feel better about themselves now? We talked about the ravages of old age destroying our hobby. I don't know if I really showed on the camera what the color looks like I'm putting on. I'm just trying to decide If he needs one more like extreme highlight at some reflection points on his hair. Or if it's already a little too light and I need to glaze and knock it down a little bit. I think I'm going to live with that for now. See how it looks as the model keeps progressing. Probably going to be ending this stream maybe about 20 minutes. If you've been seeing my stuff on Twitter, or I was saying earlier in the stream, been working exceptionally long hours recently. I was hoping I could take most of tonight off, but there's a couple things I have to finish and get to one of my colleagues. So if I finish in about 20 minutes here, that should give me enough time. Get that done before dinner, and then I can take off. Not do any more work tonight after dinner. All right, what shall we do in the meantime? I think let's see. Start working on her hair. I'm going to do hers in a brownish color. Writing the orange tiger, but I don't necessarily want her to be like too matched. So maybe I'll do a slightly orange tinted brown. Find a good base color for that.
I think you will need some kind of, let's just play around with it. I know I'm not totally finishing my sentences there, but Moonray flesh. I just made the highlight parts right here a little too long, I think, for what hair really looks like. So it's screaming at me to just accentuate very short little bursts of light along his forehead area. Happier with that. All right. So I'm going to use this camo red-brown color from Warfront. So it's got just a little bit of red in it, so if we start shifting just slightly to orange later, it'll look okay. Be a good base for it. again, with her, I did something similar with her skin tone. It's got a little bit more of an orange undertone to it rather than the pink going to cool, purplish color. Because again, she's on an orange tiger, so I wanted to have some of that tones brought up onto her model. Even if she doesn't have any like explicit orange areas, just bringing some of that tone up and to the other colors can help tie the model together. You don't have to have a whole color scheme planned out ahead of time before you start painting. I mean, some people do that, but I usually don't, as you've seen. However, I usually kind of have a rough idea, which helps me in things like, you know, prepping the skin tone to be the color I want for the rest of the model. Then the particular details I can work out later, but again, you'll see I chose blue for her clothing to go well with the orange colors. Let me ask you guys a question. I have seen posts about Titanicus, Adeptus Titanicus, coming out, and I gather, so it's a new specialist game from Games Workshop. Is it basically the new version of Epic, or is it like a kind of standalone board game product like Space Hulk or something, or is it just a new tabletop game? Kind of in the dark about all of it. So much hair. Not a bad thing, just an observation. Alright, just gonna paint her eyebrows and probably call that a day. I'll show a close-up of the other guy we did before I shut down the stream. So here's where he's at the moment. I still might end up playing with his hair a little bit. Try to create a little bit of a bright reflection spot right where the sun would hit. Decide if I need to carry that down into his beard at all. Or if I need to knock that actually down a little bit on the top of his head, do some glazing and pull it back towards the beard color a little bit.
but I'll figure that out after I do like the leather and everything. I get the rest of it done, and I'll be able to see the whole miniature together and get a sense for how the color balance and the light balance is looking. And so I'll do some touch-ups at that point. But I'm gonna wrap it up there. So thank you for joining me. The next couple months, I'm going to keep trying to stream on Sundays. I can't promise anything. Things are going to be pretty hectic for the foreseeable future, so I'll keep you posted on Twitter. It might be one of those things where I still try to stream once a week, but I can't guarantee it'll be on Sundays. It might be a little bit more erratic. But the light is at the end of the tunnel. A couple more months of craziness, and things will start to calm down a little bit. So anyway, again, thanks for joining me. Thanks for being such awesome supporters, for encouraging me and challenging me and inspiring me with the things that you guys do and with being here as I try new things and push myself. So it's great hanging out with you. I will see you next time.